Good morning. My name is Corrine Rivera-Fowler. I am the Director of Organizing and Civic Engagement at Padres and Jóvenes Unidos. For the past 25 years, Padres and Jóvenes has been working to eradicate racial disparities in education. We believe that education is a right, not a privilege, and that really all children, regardless of the color of their skin, their income, or immigration status, they all deserve an equal right to high-quality public schools that prepare them for college. I'm going to talk about equality and equitability. I can't see you guys because I'm so little back here. Okay, that's better. There's a common misconception that equity and equality mean the same thing, and that they can be used interchangeably, especially when talking about education. But the truth is that they really cannot be used interchangeably. The two words are similar, but the difference between them is crucial. So I ask you, please don't talk about equality when you really mean equity. The question is, should per student funding at every school be exactly the same? That's a question of equality. The other question we must ask is, should students who come from less, who have less and need more, get more in order to ensure that they can catch up? That is the question of equity. Equity is giving everyone what they need to be successful. Equality is treating everyone the same. Equality aims to promote fairness, but can only work when everyone starts from the same place and needs the same help. Equity appears unfair, but it actively moves everyone closer to success by leveling the playing field. The truth is that not everyone starts from the same place, and not everyone has the same needs. Oh, God. So we are going to be looking at an updated adequacy study that was commissioned for the Lobato case. The study found that the base per pupil funding really needed to be increased. And this was for districts with no special needs circumstances, just to meet standards and requirements. It then found the additional funding that is needed to ensure that each individual student need is met. There is broad agreement that increased individual attention by skilled, well-prepared, and experienced teachers is key to academic success. Additionally, we want our schools to provide our children with well-rounded education, which means relevant vocational education, arts, civics, physical education, in addition to the basic 3 R's. At a minimum, we want facilities that are free of health and safety standards, that are not overcrowded or detrimentally outdated, and that provide access to science and computer technology that is at the core of the economy that our children will enter. Progress towards these goals is impossible without significant increases in school funding and a change to our School Finance Act, particularly here in Colorado, where so many school districts have endured years of chronic budget cuts and underfunding. So here is the base funding needed. Colorado's public schools have been chronically underfunded. There have been detrimental consequences, like high teacher-student and counselor-student ratios, outdated technology, less and less textbooks. Parents are having to pay for their textbooks, as I have here in Denver. Limited vocational education options, and really high dropout rates. So the updated study found that we would need to increase the base per pupil funding by $2,000 just to meet the needs of students with no special needs and no special characteristics. But really, it's not just about more funding. How we spend the money really does matter. So here is the needs for at-risk students. The students who are coming to us at or below the poverty line. The students who are finding themselves homeless or worried about their food and housing security. They found that the children would need 35% increase to the plus on top of the base per pupil funding. Right now, Colorado provides 12% per risk pupil on lower base. This is the funding needed for small rural districts. These are districts that have just 200 to 500 students. The study found that they would need to increase by 140%. Currently, Colorado school finance formula doesn't even come close. We hear about these rural districts. These students are living at times very far away from their schools. They have transportation needs. They have a very high lack of technology out there and communications. So in order to get these students up to standards and on a level playing field with the students in the urban areas who have access to these kinds of things, we would need to increase their funding on top of the base by 140%. This is rural schools, larger rural schools and small districts where there are about 1,800 kids. They still found that they would need an additional 114% in funds. This is English language learners. The study found that an additional 47% of funding is necessary to ensure that students who are learning English meet standards. Colorado provides less than $500 per English language pupil on top of the lower base currently. In Denver and in many of our districts, you have schools where as many as 90% of the students are learning English. And they sit in their seats and they have no idea what the teacher is saying, and they can't even ask a question, or they're too timid to even ask a question. They're embarrassed and they just roll along, getting further and further behind and never catching up. This is gifted and talented students. We're really underfunding even our students who, have an ability to go much further. They need an additional 25% on top of what they're currently getting. Colorado right now provides $139 per identified pupil on top of the current inadequate base. The study found that for special ed, an additional 73 to 700% is necessary to meet the needs of special ed students, depending on the severity of their disabilities. Colorado caps total special ed funding, and in 2015, the average per student was about $1,800. As we have heard from the previous speaker, each student is a different learner. They are each starting from a different place. Our goal is to ensure that every student can succeed. The truth is, some students are standing on higher ground to begin with. Their needs, their economic and language backgrounds, where they live in the state, their access to healthcare, to mental health, the trauma that they may be experiencing in their lives, their access to transportation and technology must all be considered. Progress towards these goals is impossible without a significant increase in school funding. But I know, because of this full room today and because of all of those names on the board this morning, that we can work together with our legislators, with each other, and with maybe the voters of Colorado to ensure that all of our schools have adequate funding and that it is being spent equitably to ensure that all children have a chance to succeed. Thank you.